good night, or good morning, wherever you are, or good afternoon, good everything. Actually, good day, or hi. I'm Nadia. I'm a sophomore at LSPR, currently studying Performing Arts Communication. It's 1 a.m. in the morning, and the reason why I'm yapping to this camera is because I'm doing a final project video for one of my classes, which is Performance Studies with Miss Yani. Hello, Miss Yani. And the topic for today's video is gonna be performativity. It sort of relates to why I'm currently taking that video in my living room right now with all this mess, because no one's here. Let's just cut to the chase and I'll ask you all a question. Have you ever felt like an actor in your family? Well, you see, it's because okay, maybe I should explain the theories that back this up, because again, this is gonna affect my final scores. Yay! So first of all, what is performativity? Well, I'm gonna explain it to you with the knowledge that I learned from other people too. First of all, there's this guy called J.L. Austin. I've heard that he's a language philosopher. You hear his name a lot in performance studies by Miss Yani. Have you ever noticed that sometimes when you say something, you end up doing it? It's not like I'm gonna be drinking this drink way. It's more of like when you say a promise, you say, I promise that I'm gonna drink this drink. And hopefully you're not the type of person that doesn't own up to those promises. And well, if you're not that type of person, then you've done a spoken act. Same thing goes when someone officiates a wedding. I dub the husband and wife. I think that's how it goes. Well, depending on the context, if you are legally licensed to do that, then you're changing the social status of two people, which is obviously doing something. He first introduced this theory in his 1962 book, How to Do Things with Words. He called them speech acts. So promises, officiating a wedding, and stuff like apologizing is what he considers speech acts. Then there was Judith Butler, who in their book Gender Trouble in 1990 further developed this idea into the world of social identity and gender. They said that, well, basically gender isn't something that you have, but it's something that you do over and over again, basically like a performance. And so how we speak, how we do things, how we dress, it's us performing our identity, which then leads us back to the world of theater and culture, with Richard Schechner saying that basically all social acts are restored behavior. So all acts that have been done and are being done again over and over in new contexts, such as family rituals, fights, making up in your family, they're all basically a performance with certain patterns. And so with that point of view, our whole life is basically a stage, and we're all just actors playing a certain part with certain social scripts. Now, if life were a stage and being in a family is a part of the script, how did Keluarga Cemara portray a family as a social performance? So, Keluarga Cemara is a legendary original story from Indonesia. It started off as a sinetron, which one of my friend's mom plays the mom in it, in the original sinetron. But anyways, then in 2018 it was made into a movie, which starred my cute little cousin. and then it was developed into a musical in 2022. It was directed by Didi Rais and put on by Indonesia Kaya and Visinema, first in 2022, and then it had its rerun in 2025 just recently, and I saw that version, so the rerun, the upgraded version, so to speak, but we'll talk about that later. It tells the story of a family of four, Abah, Emak, Eis, and Ara, who's going through tough times and are basically learning to rely on each other in those tough times. So on the Keluarga Cemara stage, we're not only looking at a narration, we're also looking at a performance of basic Indonesian family values, which is hard work, simplicity, honesty, and also love, warmth, and affection. These values are then shown through their singing, through their body language, through the amazing sets, and through the interaction of the characters. Well, the lyrics in their songs and the choreography is basically just a new way of communicating to the audience older values, like their main-ish song, Harta yang paling berharga adalah keluarga, which shows the values to the audience in a way that can be seen, watched, felt, and also internalized. So I have my notes here with me just in case. I just don't want to get anything wrong. But the first one is Abah. First character is Abah. He's basically a performance of masculinity that is still patient and responsible. As we all know, he's the head of the family, he's the father figure, but he's also much more than that. He's a symbol. Okay, imagine this. He's a simple man who lost basically everything in his life except for his family. But he's still patient and caring and soft. According to Judith Butler, he is basically not just a father figure just because he's biologically male and, they're his kids, but it's also because he's continuously performing these acts that make him a father figure, such as teaching honesty without force, or still being soft-spoken even when he's stressed. He's a hard worker. He becomes a tukang beca and a kuli bangunan, when he lost his job, and he's willing to be responsible, and he feels that burden on his shoulder. He feels like he should still be the one supporting his family throughout everything. So in this musical, Abah isn't a father figure that's dominant or aggressive, but he's a very composed, and he's a man full of ethics. And so through the lens of Shatner, this is restored behavior. Abah isn't this new figure, this new character, so to say. He's a social actor that's bringing back to life an idealized version of a father that Indonesians have grown to know. Next up is Emak, a performance of motherhood, but as a family's moral support. And so here Emak is the mother figure, but not only is she a stay-at-home mom, she is also the family's emotional support and sort of the reminder of morals here. She takes care of you and she calms everyone down whenever things get stressful. And so according to Butler, this is what gender performance is. So she's basically portraying the role of the mother with her soft way of speaking, her patience in tough times, and her physical touches filled with love and warmth. She consistently performs this all throughout the play with, taking the kids to school and cooking for them. And there's this one part where she just listens to her daughter talk. It is a very idealized version of motherhood in Indonesia, and Amma performs it pretty straightforward in Keluarga Cemara. And so next up is Ais, which is basically the transitional performer of identity. She's the eldest daughter, hard enough, in a very unique position since she is transitioning between adolescence and adulthood. And so she's going through these internal, which means emotional and psychological, and also external, like physical and social changes in her life. She's also questioning the norms and values reinforced to her by her surroundings, especially since she's experienced poverty and she just lost, her very comfortable life for the first time. And according to Butler, this is basically her trying to shape her identity through still not stable enough repetition. One of the nicest example of this sort of identity crisis is one of her solo songs, which shows that she has this burden that she carries and she feels like she can't tell anybody. It's about her trying to find her place in this ever-changing world, basically. And it is a really beautiful song, which has so much meaning behind it. And last up, we have Ara, which is basically the innocent performer of joy. She's the youngest daughter of the family, and so she's very innocent and playful and plain and spontaneous. She sings so playfully, for lack of a better word, and she's also portrayed as curious. And so she represents a phase in adolescence where the social performativity isn't really realized in her and internalized yet. Through Butler, we can assume that she really just isn't fully pressured by the social norms yet to act out this performativity, and so she's still free and unconstructed, I'd say. She's a symbol of hope and freedom and openness. She doesn't question the role that she is given. She plays into it though, very much. And she's accepting of the values that her family, Abah, Amma, and Ais give her, instead of, like Ais, who is in the transitional phase, basically rebels or questions it. And so we're gonna go back to Shehner's understanding. Like we've discussed before, basically, restored behavior is a repetition of acts that we do, and then we take them apart from its original context, and then we redo it again in a completely different situation, such as the way we grieve, or the way we're thankful, the way we talk to our parents, the way we tell on our younger siblings, those sort of things. We do in repetition, and they're all part of a performance, whether we do it knowingly or not. In Keluarga Cemara, what's being put on stage isn't just a story, it's a repetition of a certain social script of what an ideal Indonesian family is. A peaceful house, a hardworking dad, a loving and caring mother, and children who understand their conditions. Through the musical format, though, these values that I'd assume everyone is very familiar with are then expanded with the help of song, choreography, stage movements, lights, and sound. There's actually a term for it by Schechner. It's called twice behavior. Yeah, it's when an act is taken from real life and then reworked and put back on performed, so we can see it again and we can know it and we can feel it more deeper through the performance. And the concept of a family being shaped instead of inherently given is also explained by Butler. Some scenes show and then enforce this idea that a family isn't just a biological structure, it's also a performative act that's consistently done over and over again, such as, let's say, if Elise isn't always showing up for Ara and taking care of her as a big sister, we wouldn't see them as the ideal family they actually end up being. And you know, the parents just showing great parenting all throughout really reinforces that act. And so how does this musical manage to capture so many people's hearts? It's definitely not just from the touching score and the lyrics and the dialogue, even though they are really touching. It's also how this musical touches on some truths that are really, really humane. Basically, we see ourselves when we watch the musical. You know, when you see Abba trying to stay strong for the family, we see our fathers. When we see Amma trying to hide that tiredness and that pain from everyone, from Abba, Elise, and Ara, we think of our mothers. And when Elise is trying to grow up a little too soon, we reminisce of our adolescent and that transitional phase that she is currently going through. It's not just something you watch, it's like a collective experience, and that's why it managed to move so many who've seen it. So basically, wrapping up these theories from the 3 different people that I just talked about, you know, being a family isn't just saying that you're a family, it's also acting it and performing it and repeating that performance over and over and over again. And so that concludes the end of my video for today. Thank you for watching and staying and listening to me yap at God knows what hour. I guess just remember that even if you feel out of place sometimes, if you still know deep down that your home is your family and your family is your home, maybe you're unknowingly sort of playing that part in this play called life. Thank you for watching.